Okay guys, I'm going to try and show you why these Chinese axles are prone to failure. So, right there guys, I'm pushing, I'm getting resistance. Okay? So as we can see, as we move the drive shaft around, right here there's two crossover spots. What I'm looking at guys is that pin right there. So this is a mechanical joint. There's two spots where this shaft crosses over the axis of the pin. Okay, and as you can see, smooth, smooth, a little bit rough here, very rough here. This particular drive shaft, you can see that angle is not very good, right there. Right, that's the spot where it binds. Not great. I'm going to rotate it 180 degrees. Okay, and on this side, notice that angle's a little bit better. This side, oops, it's hard to show you. Trust me, there is a difference, guys. That angle is nowhere near as good. Okay, guys, so the reason that my drive shaft is binding is you gotta check the action of this pin here, guys. So what you want to do is see if this pin can slide through the slot, and as you can see, it was super stuck there, guys. So this pin, right where the tweezers are pointing, this slot is not smooth enough, guys. This pin binds. That is what's limiting the range of motion on this particular drive shaft. Alright, so what I gotta do is do a little bit of massaging. What I gotta do, guys, is do a little bit of massaging right along this surface and the bottom surface. Right there and there. I'm gonna smooth that out a little bit so the pin can get the full range of motion in there, guys. Now what I'm gonna try is this little machining bit on my handy dandy rotary tool here, guys. And you can also try sandpaper. I tried that a little bit already and it was kind of tricky. So I'm going to try this first. And I'm not going to do it on camera just because it's really hard to show and I don't want to screw this thing up. So you don't want to take off too much, guys. You don't have to do much massaging, just a little bit. Alright guys, so let's have a look now that this is fixed. Let me stick this collar on. So use that pin. So as you can see, way smoother, guys, way smoother. It's not perfect. I can feel a little bit of binding there, guys, but it's a tiny fraction of what it was before. So there you go. Now, if this drive shaft fails, it's not as likely to be from oversteering. So if you want to use the absolute maximum steering range, guys, do a little bit of machining on your drive shaft. Make sure it's smooth, right? If you happen to get a good set out of the box, guys, and this is all nice and smooth when you check it, hey, it's all good. If it isn't, a little bit of work, guys. And I know you guys are thinking, hey, we don't all have a rotary tool, we don't all have these little machining bits here, guys. These little machining bits were about 10 bucks. This rotary tool can be had for like 20 bucks. In my opinion, money well spent. If you do any 3D printing, This is probably the best tool I bought when it comes to 3D printing, because you use little sanding discs and you can grind off ugliness super easily. You can modify parts super easily. This thing's paid for itself and save time, guys. It's an awesome tool. To me, indispensable. But if you don't have one, you can use a file. You can use sandpaper. You can use hobby files like these guys. These are cheap. I started out with these and I don't regret having them, but for fiddly stuff, anytime you have to do more grinding, these are kind of tedious, guys. Let me just check for you here. I think they're small enough. So let's have a look. Yeah, you can get this in there. It's going to be real tedious because you're going to be grinding just like this, guys, just sanding like this. It's going to be super tedious, but a little bit of patience, right? And you're going to end up with a nicely smooth action on there, guys. And yeah, it'll take a while, guys. With a file, for sure, it'll take a while. But patience. You're going to end up with a part that hopefully will last a while. And I will keep you posted. If this drive shaft ends up not holding up any better than one that isn't massaged, I'll let you know. But I'll be shocked if it doesn't, guys, because going past the optimum turning radius, guys, that is a huge problem. And you can see it if you put together an axle and you have it out of the car and you turn the wheels all the way and you start turning that tire and you see the spot that binds. Imagine that all loaded up in a situation where you're driving, putting all kinds of torque on there, guys. That is rough, guys. And one of the things that people talk about all the time in these drive shafts, these axial style ones that are supposed to be really durable, guys, the one thing people talk about all the time is these small pins shearing. So there's always a point of failure, guys. And on these ones, apparently it's that small pin. So, something's always at risk. But in my nickel's worth, guys, if you don't go for too much steering angle, much less chance that you're going to start breaking stuff. And definitely pay attention to the surface you're driving on, because if it's got tons of traction, it's rough, guys, because that one wheel is going to want to turn more than the other wheel when you're turning and stuff. And I'm trying to remember, what did I break? I broke something driving on carpet, because you could literally hear the tires grabbing and the traction, because there was such good traction between the rubber and the carpet that I don't remember. I broke something. Anyways, there you go, guys. Fix your drive shaft. Make it absolutely the least likely to break as possible. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time. This angle here, guys, on the bad side, let me find it again. So this angle on the bad side, guys, that is the limiting factor for this drive shaft. If you try to turn sharper, you can get it to work, kinda, but every time you're driving your truck and the tire turns and it rotates to this spot, it's putting tremendous load on this joint, because it doesn't want to bend that far, guys. That is why so many of these drive shafts fail. So what you want to do is you want to dial back the dual rate on your radio to the point where that binding is not happening, or it's happening at a much smaller level. Like, little tiny bit of binding, no big deal. Massive binding, like really trying to torque on this, not going to turn, guys. Like, it's not going to go. That's super hard on these things, guys. That is the problem. Now, taking these apart, all you got to do, you pull off this collar. You have to pry it a little bit the first time, and then there's a pin right in there. Come on, focus, focus, and you can pop that out really easily. Just give it a little nudge, and most of the time they actually fall out a little too eagerly. Of course, when you want it out, it doesn't come out. And then there's another pin, goes inside here, goes inside this hole, it pivots on that pin, and the other pin, the little pin, anchors it. Alright, so the little pin is in there like so, anchoring it. The big pin allows this to pivot, gives you a universal joint action, right? And I've had a good look at this, guys. Oops, as I drop stuff willy-nilly. And quite frankly, it doesn't seem that messed up. But I'm looking for a rough spot, and I'm going to look a little bit more, and I'm going to take a grinding pad to it and see if I can smooth it out a little bit and get a little more action out of it, guys. But the moral of the story is you can get in there, you can piddle around with it a little bit if you want to. But to preserve the life of these things, guys, the thing you want to do is turn back your dual rate a little bit. Do not get greedy on turning radius if your drive shafts are not up to the task. Alright? Now, these are an axial SCX10 style drive shaft, and you'll notice it's a really nice looking beefy U-joint. And from the reading I've done, these seem like they're more durable, guys. That's why I made that 3D printed knuckle for those cheap Injora, metal axles, guys, so that you can use these drive shafts in them, because they're supposed to be better. And I mean, they seem pretty good. And as you can see, as I'm turning this, they do bind at a certain point, guys, which all drive shafts do. All drive shafts have a limiting angle, guys. These ones are pretty smooth, guys, and it seems like you get a little more before they bind. But as you can see, like right there, it's binding, guys. It's for sure binding. You know, you ease up, no binding. Alright, so see, super smooth, nice. That angle really good. Everything's nice. You go too far, oh, look at that, all notchy. Right, and as you can, I'm trying to show you the angle here. So this one's got a pretty good turning angle, guys. That's a pretty good angle there. It's very smooth. So right there, you get more turning angle. It's very smooth. It's more forgiving, right, guys? So right there, these may not be any more durable, guys. Like if you start putting massive amounts of torque on these, really, they may not be any stronger. They're going to seem stronger because you're not mechanically beating on these things as much. You're not overdoing it and putting a load that they're not designed to take, guys. So with these cheap drive shafts, you know, are they perfect? No, they're not perfect, guys. They've got, you know, they got some problems. But you can see when I just spin this ball in there, it's smooth, right, guys? So there's definitely a certain level of binding that I'm thinking you can smooth something out here, guys. I just haven't quite figured out what. So I'm gonna fart around with it a little bit, guys, and just see what I can do. But the moral of the story is don't overextend these drive shafts, these CVD shafts, guys, because if you do, that's what's putting massive amounts of load on them. That's what's breaking them. So keep that in mind.